moved in, folks were selling drugs in the neighborhood. And it was a house that folks had squatted in and were selling crack out of. And I closed the house and bought it. And everybody said, "You're crazy. You're next door to the church. You're in the neighborhood where they're selling drugs." And I said that, look, I've always lived close to my ministry. And if I'm afraid of my own neighborhood, then that says something about my character. So I'm going to live in the neighborhood. Well, that house that I had to rehab, I bought it for $119,000, rehabbed it. At the end, I put into it a total of $250,000, purchase plus the rehab. Now the property is worth $1 million.
Wow. So Reverend Hagler, Cedric Smith, you know, these are we're predominantly today, and I just want to say this to give you a second to catch your breath and to ask this question. Most of our students today, those who are watching, because they are in so many different affinity groups and they're preparing for the send-off, that's where they are. But this is a wonderful conversation. I'm glad it's being recorded. What you're telling me is I should own property, I should own a home, and I have a right to. So let's take a toll. Just get some metrics out of it. How many students really want to own a home that belongs to them? You're not forced, so I think we would say majority. So this speaks to, you know, Reverend Hagler speaks to the social justice side of this and the advocacy. It echoes his activism in the 70s with, you know, his justice journey and racial equality. It echoes his involvement in the 80s with the anti-apartheid movement, in the 90s with the Founding Faith Action, in the 2000s with Hurricane Katrina, and in 2010 and even now in the present day with ongoing activism. But I think it's important for students to hear that social justice and the advocacy that we want them to be a part of might find them in this vein, working in that vein. But Cedric Smith, I have a question for you, and Reverend Hagler, I'll let you rest. What are you trying to do with us in terms of getting us to be interested in owning a home, and why is that so important?
I think it's incumbent on us to realize that the earlier we do something with home ownership, the better. Imagine if you can. You know, most of you are, you know, late teens, early 20s, but imagine taking out a 15-year mortgage and having it paid off before you even reach the age of 40. Or taking out a 30-year loan and having it paid off well before you retire. So the urgency is now, and I can't stress that enough. There's actually a couple of seniors have approached me since finding out about this NACA initiative and have actually told me, yes, I want to be ready to purchase a home on graduation day. And I'm going to make that promise come true. So by May 2024, I think graduation date is May 11th. Yes. We got some work to do because to qualify for this program, look, if NACA's not going to consider your credit score, if they're not going to require a down payment, if they're not going to require closing costs, it sounds like, okay, well then anybody can do this. No, that's not true. They just don't use the way traditional banks approve you for a mortgage. There are still some guidelines you have to meet. You have to prove that your finances are stable. You have to prove that your finances are stable. And there's some tried and true methods to getting to that. So I'm here to impress upon you that the time is now, especially how many seniors are here today? 1, 2, 3, I think I saw 4. Okay. The time is now for especially seniors, freshmen, sophomore, juniors. I got time to work with you. This is going to be a build-up over the next few years. By the time you graduate, on graduation day, by the time you land that job, and look, most of you should, by the time you graduate, you're going to be making 60, 70, 80, six figures. That's why you're going to school. That's one of the reasons why you're going to school, so you can get paid. Once you land that job, it's time to go. And look, don't feel like you have to buy your dream home right away, because if you do this right, you'll probably purchase a few homes over your lifetime. But one of the first building blocks of wealth is owning something. Owning something. And as the Reverend just pointed to, why pay somebody else's mortgage as rent when you can pay yourself? When you can pay yourself. So the urgency is right now, and I'm going to yield.
So to repeat what you said, even though I have bad credit, you're willing to work with me. That's why you're here.
Absolutely.
And you represent NACA.
I am a Virginia Union employee, make no mistake.
Wow.
I work for the university. I used to work for NACA, so I know intricately how NACA operates. I know all the guidelines like the back of my hand. I worked for them for 8 years. All I'm doing is exporting that NACA knowledge onto campus here so that we can take advantage of it. Imagine, if you will, imagine every senior in the graduating class, and every senior in the graduating class may not want to or desire to purchase a home right away. There are different motivations. Some are going to be wanting to travel overseas. Okay, you're not ready. But imagine that every graduating senior has been qualified and approved so that if they so choose to purchase right away, they are ready to do it right then and there. That's my goal, year in and year out, starting with the seniors, but it's going to work its way down to freshmen, sophomores, juniors. Like I said, I got a little bit of time because you got a few years to put in. Not to mention, let's not forget about faculty, staff. There are amazingly, and you may not know this, some of your teachers, professors, they're not homeowners. Right. So this program is for them too. For faculty, staff, employees, look, there's a landscaper out here. I've talked to him. He's been at the university for 19 years. He's ready to buy a home. 19 years, that says a lot. You got some job stability. So this is campus-wide. This alumni are being outreached to also. So anybody and everybody that has anything to do with Virginia University, Virginia Union University, is invited to take part in this program, and I intend to administer that.
This sounds so transformational, and thank you so much.
That's a good word.
Yeah, transformational.
Transformational.
So it's a process. It's not an overnight thing.
Absolutely.
But I want students to hear this from this centering moment. So we've had a great time in chapel, and to our viewers as well. We are at a place where we want to make sure that our students really realize the vision that our president, our board, has for your success, not just while you're here, but on that day where you graduate. So let's vision that for a moment. I've graduated, and now the gravity has really hit me. I've applied for graduate school in some senses. I have a job offer, but I still want to have my own. How many of you want your own? I'm serious. I think we need to talk about that for a second. The power of having your own, a place where you can go in, you can keep your grass the way you want to, you can decorate the way you want to. You don't have to move. You don't have the stipulations of renting. I want to hear us talk a little bit, Reverend Hagler, about the mindset of that kind of oppression that says that black and brown people really aren't destined to own, but we're only designed to be borrowers. What is that these students might be facing at this very moment that says this is another one of those conversations that it will never really happen for me. I'm not qualified. I've applied before. I've been shut down. I can't get a car. I can't. What is that level of oppression, and what is that about from a spiritual perspective?
Well, part of it is we've been conditioned to be renters. Wherever you go, whatever major city you're in, there's a whole set went to Boston. I lived in a triple decker. That's one of those old wooden things with 3 apartments. A cop had bought the triple decker for $9,000. That's what it was going for then.
Wow.
That was 1980. And I'm thinking, because I was paying $600 a month, and the other floor was paying $600, and the other floor was paying $600. That's $1,800 on what he was carrying as a $9,000 mortgage. He was making money hand off of over fist from me and from the person on the first and second floor. And when he sold it, 5 years later, he sold a $9,000 property for over $100,000.
Wow.
Think about it. One of the financial folks from Fidelity argued that home ownership is simply a forced savings plan. And I thought about that a minute. And I go, yeah, he's right. And he's basing that on the fact that the bank is going to be holding your mortgage. So, in some ways, they're going to be subsidizing you because you don't have to pay the full price for the property. You basically pay a mortgage. That it's set up that you pay off over time. But at the same time, you also may benefit from appreciation in that property. So even though you pay this and the property was sold originally for this, the fact is 10 years down the road, the property may be 30-40% more than what you paid for.
Right.
So you didn't pay all that money. You paid the mortgage every month. And therefore, you have paid rent, if I can put it that way, but you're going to see something back. Now, if that happens generation after generation, Dr. Price, that's called generational wealth. That is, I buy something and I pass it on to my child. And my child pass it on to their child. Eventually, what we've passed on is wealth that can really amount to an astronomical nature. I remember getting a call when I was in Boston. I did something controversial. I was marrying somebody to somebody who was doing life in prison. And the brother called me, of the bride, and he introduces himself this way, doesn't even tell me his name. He says, I'm sitting on the property that's been in our family since 1780. What he was telling me was his sense of importance and place based on how long that property has been in his family. We need to get that mentality of how we build intergenerational wealth. It starts with you, and it gets handed down, and handed down, and handed down. And one thing that's important is that you're not removed at somebody else's whim, but at your choice.
Wow. Wow. You know, John, in the biblical canon, John 10:10, there is the description of the thief. I've come to destroy, to take from you, but then the biblical response is, I've come that you might have life and that you might have it more abundantly. I want to ask a question, just a poll, and because of time, we're going to end in just a moment. But I cannot express to you how proud I am that as a conscious chapel that is rooted in liberation theology, that we can have these type of conversations that move us from a just outward expression of praise, which we find to be so very natural to who we are as African American descendants and African American persons. It is the drum in our hand and in our feet, to a more way of freedoms that cannot be taken from us, ownership. I want to ask a question just by poll to our students. How many of you have been given a house and you have the deed? I can't put my hand up yet. Have you been given a home? Watch this. So I see 2 out of a robust crowd today, and that's for you online. How many of you have been given a home? We're talking about equity, as was mentioned by our panelists. We're talking about freedoms that cannot be taken. How many of you, your family, and I'm going to put my hand up, but we're doing data work now here in real time. Dr. Price believes in this, by the way. How many of you have rented your entire life? An apartment, or your family rents? Okay, don't be ashamed. Dr. Price put his hand up. Now, okay, 6 months. How many of you would really like to own something, a home, and it would be a game changer for you and your family, for your children, some of you, for your parents? Well, I want to end by allowing Cedric Smith, who's here working as an employee of Virginia Union University. It's the president's vision, and it was the president's guide that called Cedric to this place, these hollow grounds and Deer Walls, like many of us. And we are starting to see his vision. And based on the information you all shared today, we're starting to understand it. And there's an opportunity coming up where NACA, I understand, is going to be on campus. And I think this is one of the largest meetings in the country, is going to be right here about you coming, applying, and would you tell us?
Absolutely. To wrap up, let me just say this. On the television monitor, you see that Friday, November 17th through Sunday, November 19th, NACA will be here on campus. It'll be sort of a campus takeover, because on NACA's website, I learned that more than 4,000 people have signed up already to come to campus over those 3 days. 4,000 people are going to come and try and get approved for a mortgage over the span of 3 days. So I'm here to tell you, and this is not so much for you students. I would love for you to come by and just witness this. This will be in the chapel and in the LLC. But not so much for your students, but what I want you to do. Go home, tell your mama and them, tell your daddy, tell your cousins, tell your uncles, anybody you know who's interested in getting approved for a mortgage. Come on down to Virginia Union University, November 17th through 19th. Thousands of people will show up, and of course, look, thousands of people won't get approved for a mortgage, but a few hundred will. Think about that. A few hundred people at the conclusion of this event, a few hundred people will be qualified to start shopping. And look, when I say shopping, I'm talking about going to look for a house. That's the best part about the whole process. You've been approved, and now you're going to shop for a house. I'll leave you with this vision, because this is what struck me when I bought my house in 2006. The first time I bought a house with almost an acre of land, so it has a big yard. I had a push lawnmower. But you know how proud I was to mow that lawn the very first time? I got a big yard, huge, and I was all puffed up and everything. I wanted the neighbors to see me mowing my yard. It's mundane, yes. But think about that. Think about the first time you mow your yard, your lawn. Think about the pride you will feel. Think about decorating your kitchen. Think about painting the walls. You can't do any of that if you're renting. Think about those things, because that's what's coming, y'all. That's what's coming. Send your parents, friends, anybody you know to the NACA event November 17th. Thank you.
As we prepare to close today, and I again want to thank you all, that's going to be here. You can get the information on the QR code. I plan on trying to attend. because I would not mind owning a home here myself. But I'm going to ask all of us to stand. It's very rare that we're going to have a senior advisor at Fellowship of Reconciliation, which is the oldest interfaith peace and justice organization here in the chapel, at least this academic year. And I'm going to ask Reverend Hagler, who he and I share in faith traditions. Some people call them denominations. I call them faith traditions. And I'm going to ask him if he would just wrap his hand around me as he would place a blessing on me. And Brother Cedric, if you would come as he places a blessing on us. He is ordained to do so. And I'm going to ask him to give us our benediction today, and we are honored that you have been here with us.
Thank you so much. Just as a note, Fellowship of Reconciliation is the oldest peace and justice organization in the country. Started in 1915. I'm their senior advisor. And we've been organizing around issues in the Middle East as well as racial justice issues here in the country. Let us join in prayer. We give you thanks, O Lord, for this special time together. We give you thanks and ask for your blessings to be upon every student here at Virginia Union and upon the faculty and administration, and that your hand of grace and goodness be upon Dr. Price and Cedric, and allow us to continue together, all of us, to be your healers, your proclaimers, and agents of your redemption. Allow us to continue to be your evangelists, spreading good news, news of hope, news of liberation, and news of joy. Let us go forth from here, empowered and lifted up and blessed. And in the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Go with God in the beauty of his splendor, and join the procession as we're going to salute the football team. The band is playing. You all know what to do. Let's go turn up and salute them. And thank you so much. Don't forget, the ladies are in competition on Friday night. You don't want to miss it. Dr. Price is going to be there. To our viewing audience, thank you so very much. Are y'all leaving right?